Bill O'Reilly, out of nowhere, shockingly, decided to go after Karl Rove for the VA healthcare scandal.
In 2005, under President Bush, it was a $3 billion shortfall in funding for the veterans' health care and a variety of other problems with the VA under the Bush administration. So what is the essential problem here? Why can't the government fix this?
Yeah, well, look, fix this. We got to be careful what we describe as this. When Bush came into office, the problem facing the Veterans Administration was an unbelievably long period of time needed between the time that somebody applied for coverage from the Veterans Administration to when the determination was made. On average, it took 230 days from the time that you applied for disability benefits to the time that a determination was made. It was also, when we came into office, we looked at the VA and found it to be horribly underfunded. So Bush, over his term in office, doubled the size of the budget, nearly doubled the size of the budget of the Veterans Administration, and put $6 billion into upgrading and modernizing and building new facilities, and created $1 billion new fund in order to deal with traumatic brain injuries and with post-traumatic stress. But our problem was different than the problem that the Obama administration faces. Ours was simply the issue of taking hundreds of thousands of people who had been waiting on average 230 days to get a determination whether or not they were eligible and covered by the VA, and trying to reduce that. By spending all this money, by improving systems, it got down to an average of about 161 days by the time that Bush left office. By 2012, it was back up above the 230 that we inherited when we came into office to 260. But that's different than what we've got here.
Okay, let me make two comments. Because President Bush involved the nation in two very intense wars, he had to upgrade the VA facilities. Everybody knows that. But this is what I want an answer to. And I want you to step out of your partisan shoes for a moment. When President Bush left office after 8 years, the VA itself made a report to the incoming Obama people. All right? In the report, it said, quote, I'm quoting, "The problems and causes associated with scheduling, waiting times, and waiting lists at the VA are systemic." So the problems existed on the day President Bush left office.
No.
That's what the report says, right? I have it right in front of me.
No. First of all, it is not a VA report. It is a report from people assigned by the Obama campaign to their transition planning. These were probably Democrats in Washington who had some previous. Let me finish, Bill.
Mr. Rove,
it was some previous involvement.
You're wrong.
Yeah, but here, Bill, let me describe what it is. No. Let me describe what the problem was, Bill. You're conflating again.
I have to go on the record, Mr. Rove. Mr. Rove,
I know, but let me finish, Bill.
Record. Nope. Let me quote where this came from so the audience knows. This came from VA officials, all right? It was published by CBS News. That's where it came from. Now you can explain.
But it was not.
Damn, man. Every once in a while, I keep saying it, every once in a while what O'Reilly does is he throws a bone out there and actually does his job well so that it gives him the facade of respectability so that now for the next 6 months he can continue to be a right-wing douchebag. But every once in a while he goes out there and you go, I didn't know he was capable of doing that. He did it here. He did it, if you remember, with Dick Cheney about the Iraq War. He really pushed him on it and said, why did we go? There's really no reason for that. Now, of course, it's ridiculous because he was one of the biggest cheerleaders in getting us in there in the first place. So now, after the fact, he's like cracking down on Cheney to his face about it. But again, that's what they do. And that Megyn Kelly will do it every once in a while. Fox News sends out a few people, Shep Smith, where every once in a while they give the veneer of respectability, which allows them to say, see, we're fair and balanced because that one time I did my job okay. But look, man, at least in this respect, he busted up Rove pretty good. And there's so many different parts that I love. So when O'Reilly's talking about how these terrible problems existed under the Bush administration at the VA too, Rove just goes, no. What a great intellectual point that is, Karl. When you disagree, just scream no at the top of your lungs like a child. And then also the oldest right-wing trick in the book, when you don't have a good response, what do? You just claim there's a liberal bias. Oh, no, that report that was done by the VA wasn't actually done by the VA. It was done by liberals that Obama said should do the report or something. And if you notice, he actually slipped in the word probably, too. It's probably done by liberals' Obama pick to do the report. And O'Reilly's like, not so much. I have the report right in front of me, and here's what it says. And then the part where O'Reilly opens it up by saying, yeah, there was a $3 billion shortfall under Bush at the VA. What do you have to say? And then let the bullshit flow from Rove. And when he says, and here's a very important part. When Rove says Bush doubled the size of the VA budget, yeah, and he needed to make it about 46 times bigger. Why? Because he started the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War, and there was an influx, just an explosion of veterans that needed health care. So for him to double it, that's actually, that's not nearly enough compared to what he needed to do. And then Rove also fucked up big time because he bragged. At one point, he bragged about, no, and by the time Bush left office, there was a 161-day waiting period. That's not anything to brag about. Shouldn't it be a 0-day waiting period? And here's another part about this that I find incredibly interesting. For the past 5 days, Republicans all around Fox News have been pretending that, look, you got to understand something. The VA scandal is not a matter of funding, okay? If you funded it more, it wouldn't have fixed anything. What it really is about is this is a government system, and government systems suck, and we should privatize it. But notice, what did Rove admit to there? The whole premise of his argument was, no, we need to fund more. That's the whole point. And Bush did that, see? Bush did it. What happened? I thought that all the right-wingers were saying funding is not the issue and we don't need to fund it more. Now, all of a sudden, you're admitting that funding it more is the answer? I thought it wasn't the answer. They're contradicting themselves. Why? Because he was pushed up against the wall by O'Reilly. So, look, they do a shitty job most of the time, but in this respect, he did do a good job. And the last thing I'll say is, it's not an issue, and whether we're talking about Bush or whether we're talking about Obama, the solution to it is simple. You need to have Congress. The president can't do it. The administration can't do it. You need to have Congress pass a bill that says, okay, we're going to give X amount more funding, and then they could hire X amount more people at the VA, and then that'll get rid of the waiting list. Because all Article 1, Section 7 of the Constitution, all spending bills need to originate in the House of Representatives, okay? Congress needs to lead. Congress has to do it. So for what they're doing now, what the House is doing now is they're doing this dog and pony kabuki theater nonsense where they're trying to grandstand and say, oh, see, the Democrats suck, Democrats suck, Democrats suck. This isn't that, the VA is in trouble, the VA is in trouble, the VA is in trouble. Less talky, more acty. Yes, the VA is in trouble. You guys need to lead and pass a bill that funds it more, and then Obama will sign it right away. That's the issue underlying all of it, and nobody's cutting through all the garbage and just saying it point blank period like that, and they should.